Welcome in to another episode of The Right Stuff, a global podcast by Empire Games. I'm your host, Nathan. Joining me today is...
Wayne.
He is filling in for Yannie. Yannie's disappeared as mysteriously as he arrived. And so we've got a bunch to talk about. We wanted to start off by talking about the We Warriors tournament coming up. So that is this Saturday, October 25th. Details are in our Discord. Details are also in the Upstate Blood Bowl Network Discord if you are a member of that one as well. That was put on by David Beatty. We were actually trying to work it so we could get Beatty in to help promote the cast. Plus, I think David, he's a really fun guy to talk to just in general.
Yeah, I was excited about having him here today for this. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. And then Yannie's sick too, so I'm happy to be the third choice. Thank you very much.
Moving on down the list. But yeah, I think We Warriors, I mean, it's a specialist tournament, right? I've often described the rule set as a rule set for sickos. I do think it's a like, if you put Blood Bowl on the spectrum of games from like chess to Calvin Ball, you know, it's probably closer to like the Calvin Ball side of random zany stuff. And then I think the We Warriors takes that and puts it towards the maximum side of the Calvin Ball rules.
Yeah, to me, there's some similarity to sevens, right? Not in the rules of play so much as just in the spirit of it. Like sevens is more random and more zany than regular Blood Bowl.
Right.
And this format where you have only stunty teams is very random and zany. It's so different. I enjoy playing a stunty team in the normal environment because, you know, they do things differently. You can catch the other team off guard and use different tactics. But in an all stunty tournament, it's just a completely different animal. Like, your stunty tricks are what everybody's doing. It's just it's interesting.
Yeah, and the one of the larger questions for a tournament like that is like, who does more damage to your team, yourself or your opponent?
Right.
Because I mean, I think Blood Bowl games where both teams are detonating themselves is funny and comical and stuff like that. Unfortunately, when your team is imploding and then your opponent is also exploding your team,
yeah, that's a feel bad situation.
That's the one where it kind of like falls off the rails. But I mean, I enjoyed the tournament last year. I played Stunty Skinks last time around. Like, my rationale being that like 8 speed was actually like a ton of movement, and you could take Dribble and Drool, and they're just kind of a crazy good players. This time around, I'm gonna embrace the Goblin side.
That's good, I think. You might as well, if you're going to play in We Warriors, you might as well go all in.
Yeah.
I'll probably run Grifflings back just because that's been my thing for a while, and not to give any spoilers, but there's reason to believe it might not be around anymore.
Yeah, and we'll get into that once we start talking about the later edition further down into the podcast, but I mean, there was an article today, and there were some teasers yesterday of some stuff that kind of leads us to believe that maybe you don't get to play Griff on every team now. So
yeah, just we can save the today stuff for later. But yesterday they showed 2 star player cards for the new edition. One of them was Griff, and the only changes are his cost went up $20,000 from 280 to 300. And his special was changed from a once per game reroll to a once per game +1 to an agility test, which is interesting. You know, it's better in some ways and not as good in some ways. But I think for me, I've played so much with Griff, I want to take old Griff out for a spin one last time.
Yeah, may as well. Take him out for ice cream before you got to put him down.
That's right.
So yeah, We Warriors this Saturday, October 25th. The entry fee is something I probably should have prepared before I started talking about this, but it is payable the day of.
Yeah.
And that's listed in the rules packet. One of the funny rules is the ability to be able to throw the opponent's teammates.
Right.
So there have been many times where I wish I could pick up my opponent's model and toss it across the room. But
Well, guess what?
Now you get to.
Now you can. Yeah, it should be a good time. And Beatty always brings top-notch swag. So if you're thinking about coming out, I would advise it just for the cool stuff you'll get.
He's got some shirts that are available for an additional fee, but it's similar to what he did last year. It's going to have shirts. He's got ball tokens. He went with like a different color scheme, so that way you can differentiate it from the ball token from last year. I still use my We Warriors ball token most of the time. I like that really flat ball token because if you're using skill rings, it still fits on top of it. I like the metal tokens, but if you've got a skill ring on your model, it doesn't quite fit in there.
True. Yeah, I use the bottle cap tokens from last year as my rerolls.
Yeah.
Still to this day, they're great. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings this time.
Yep. It's always good to have a memento from a tournament as well.
Definitely.
So.
And when it's one you will actually use. I mean, you go to tournaments, you get a bunch of stuff, and a lot of times you just throw it in a drawer. But for something to be actually useful and for you to bring it out every game you play, like that's extra. Like, yep. I really like that.
Yep. Looking forward to that. I don't really have anything else I wanted to mention about We Warriors this time. I think we covered it.
I think so.
Okay. We are going to dive into the league games, and we're going to kind of blast through these just because we're mostly excited to talk about the new edition stuff. So sorry everybody if we sell your game short. It actually does look like there were some pretty good games this time around. There were some ones that were pretty interesting that I wish I had some play-by-plays for. Two players are having a drop out of the league, Clay and Joel, and I think maybe we mentioned Clay last time, but Joel was like on the fence, and I talked about it. And both of them, I think, want to jump in once the new edition comes out, so they're just stepping away, not like out for good, right?
Yeah, and I think with both of them, it's more of a scheduling issue than not wanting to play. I think school and work are just really busy right now. Yeah,
and that's one of those things that escalates right up until the holidays. Because a lot of people are trying to get their stuff in before the holidays. School, by the time you get to December, most of the school stuff is usually wrapped up.
Yeah.
So you might have some finals, but usually by that point it's just a formality. But
yeah, I'm sure they'll both be back when we start season 10.
All right. So there was a Gamer Clan victory over the Bloodied Masquerade. That was a 3-0 win for Chris. Now this wasn't... there's some speculation as to whether Joel dropped out because he was getting his teeth kicked in while playing vampires, and this game certainly looks like it might have contributed towards that. But I think, just talking to Joel just a little bit, he was trying to get used to vampires to play them in a regular league.
Yeah.
And I do think, especially in Joel's case, where he may have played some of the older version of the game and then, like recently came back to it, I do think vampires are a very powerful team, particularly in league play, but I do think it requires getting your footing with them. Otherwise, you can really put yourself in a hole with the team.
Yeah, no question. I mean, vampires now are much better than they used to be, but they still require some finesse. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to really have some reps to be able to just instinctively know, where do I put this thrall? When do I activate this vampire? When do I bite a thrall? When do I just fail the bloodlust? These are things that you only really can get a feel for by playing. And he got beat 3-0 here, but Joel's had scheduling issues going back to last season, so it's not a surprise to me that he needs to take a little time.
Yeah.
Now, if he were winning every game 3-0, maybe it would have been different. I know that would be a factor for me if my time were really limited. But still, we look forward to seeing Joel next season.
Yep. And we've got an Electric City Maulers 1-0 win over the Drakenhof, Grave Robbers. And that one looked like one where the undead resilience really mattered. Some of Henderson's wins up to this point have been by multiple touchdowns, and so it looks like the fact that the undead are just on the board mucking it up. And even though you're like taking some of them off the pitch, you're still getting right back in there. I wonder what this would look like under the new edition, if we can keep speculating about the new edition.
Yeah. Well, you probably wouldn't have a Nippon team.
Yeah.
But the undead will be interesting in the new edition for sure.
We've got a 2-0 win from the Bodacious period over the Blaviken Bloodhounds. To me, it looks like the Skinks just got to roll what they wanted to roll in this game. And that certainly makes winning a Blood Bowl game easier. John mentioned that he killed a Bloodseeker on a 1-die block from a skink, and that kind of you don't need many dice rolls like that during the course of a game for you to just kind of like effortlessly walk into the end zone a couple of times.
Yeah, that skink team is interesting. It doesn't look like the red-crested skinks really did much this game, but they are some pretty crazy players.
They're really good players because just being able to take general primary,
right?
That's just really powerful in a scheme
for sure.
Now Yannie unfortunately is not here to give a recap of his 1-1 draw with the Gamer Clan. The Rat Bashers got a touchdown, and that I think that was like a tale of two halves game where Yannie is in control of the first half, Chris is in control of the second half, and I think Chris opted to play for the draw somewhere in there as opposed to trying to run it in, because I don't think he wanted like the ball and chains back on the field, and I can understand that.
Yeah, right. They're pretty scary. I guess conventional Blood Bowl doesn't have a concentrated ball and chain team like this, so I haven't faced Yannie's team yet, but it's pretty scary.
I gotta play against it, so I'm glad I've got pieces that I don't care if they die.
Yeah,
is my rationale going into that game. I'm glad I've got zombies on the team that can get hit by these things. So we've got a 2-1 win for the Electric City Maulers over the Atlantean Ass Kickers. This was a really close game. I think it was complicated because there was like a bit of a rules fumble in the first half, from what I understand. I feel like it's worth mentioning on the podcast that if you've got too many players on the pitch, one of them is sent off.
And your opponent gets to choose.
Your opponent gets to choose, yeah. So I think that definitely changed the first half of the game. And when a game is a 2-1 like this, there's all kinds of like minor things that can go one way or the other.
Right. So a Blood Bowl game can really turn on the slightest thing. It could turn on a misposition of one square. And if one team was playing almost an entire half with 12 players, that skews the result.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad to see that team getting a 2-1 win. I kind of feel bad for Austin in this situation.
Yeah. So hard to go back and correct it after the fact, but that's what happened there.
I'll just say the rule book is your friend. Yeah, and if you ever have a question about how something works during a game, reach out on Discord, or if you're playing in the store and I'm here, come get me. I'll be glad to answer a question.
Yep. We've got a Fear the Deer 2-0 win over the Peeled Nuts. This is both teams that wanted to play dirty, and it looks like the Dwarfs, the fact that they've got 10 armor, kind of probably added up over the course of the game.
Yeah, I think this was probably a bad matchup for John's team. I'd like that Hobgoblin team a lot.
It's a really cool one.
Yeah, but into all these Dwarves with super high armor and block, I just don't think it's their best matchup.
Nah, and the dwarves get to rain bombs on you. I did see that there were like 5 or 6 secret weapons sent off at the half, which is really funny. That's just funny.
And your stab on the Hobgoblin team is kind of useless against dwarves.
You're playing like Kill Team at that point, or Necromunda, right? Like it's you got your gang who's using like flamers versus the gang who's using like power weapons in close combat. So
it's just kind of a mismatch.
We've got the Whale Road Warriors notch a win here, 2-1 over Lupus Lappin. I will make the werewolf count. He rolled 6 werewolves for this game. His total count is 19 over the 4 games. And to me, I think that was like he dug himself into a hole there, because the Norse team got to add Griff and the White Dwarf because they were suddenly getting like 500k in inducements.
Wow. Yeah. I would bring the full moon with me if I were playing against that team.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that looked to be a pretty good game. Once again, another 2-1 victory, but Griff and the White Dwarf being in the mix certainly makes things a little bit more complicated. The White Dwarf is I love that piece. I probably have more experience with it than anybody else in the store at this point. Because I've played it on Nobility, I've used it on Amazons. I use it like every chance I can get. I had a Norse tournament list that used the White Dwarf, and I liked it quite a bit because the ability to dish out Mighty Blow means you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's a great piece. It's so versatile. It does everything. It even makes julienne fries. Yeah, and that's another one where you really need a bunch of reps to get the optimum use out of it. You need to know what you're doing every time because it can do so many things. It's Dauntless, Sure Feet, Mighty Blow. What's the other one?
Break Tackle.
Break Tackle.
Yeah, and so Break Tackle is actually great for these 3 agility teams because there's a lot of times where you can use the White Dwarf to reduce a dodge down to a 2+. And the White Dwarf had like really interesting applications with Amazons because you could give an Amazon Break Tackle and then you could go for an ambitious dodge. And if you just naturally rolled the bonus, then you could save the Break Tackle for another dodge later. So like if you go for like a 4-up or a 5-up dodge and you roll a 4, then you can use the Break Tackle to make it a 5. And if you roll a 1, then you just use your team reroll, or use your dodge reroll on what you rolled. So yeah, it combines really interestingly. And then you probably would make the same assumption that Donald did. Donald was like, I was used to Griff being the ball carrier for the team.
Yeah.
And apparently Skoda was like, this is a 4-strength piece with block that speeds 7. I'm going to use this to go hit everything on your team.
Well, I think that's valid. He's got the... So he's playing the old Norse team, right? With the old catchers and throwers?
Yes, yeah.
But they are good ball handling pieces. They can move the ball. You don't really need...
And you want the SPP on your ball handling pieces anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
You can give... The thing, I believe the White Dwarf can give the skills to Griff, right? So,
true, yeah.
So, like, Griff starts his activation next to the White Dwarf, picks up Mighty Blow, goes... blasts somebody on your team, yeah.
Well, Griff is so versatile. He can do anything. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think if I were playing this game, I would do the same thing Skoda did. I would try to get my touchdowns on the other players. If I had to score with Griff, I would, but it looks like he didn't have to. So great.
All right, moving on to the next game. The Bodacious period, 2-1 win over the Lower Anderson Conspiracy. I did want to congratulate the Cornbread on his first touchdown of the season. He was celebrating in the Discord. I know it's got to feel pretty good if you go into all of these games and you're getting your teeth kicked in and you finally pull something off in a game.
Yeah,
so I'm glad he's sticking with it.
This game looks like it was really close.
Yeah, from what I heard from John again was that there was a 2-die uphill from a skink into one of John's skinks that was blocked dodge, and the Lower Anderson Conspiracy sent in a skink with 2-die uphill and rolled double pals to knock over the skink in a cage. So.
Living the dream.
All right, we had a all-on-red 3-0 victory over the Pestilent Party Makers. Ide has re-rolled his team, and do you feel like he regrets his decision at this point?
Hard to say. I don't think he was super happy with the other team, but it doesn't look like this one's going great either. I think so I'm playing one of the Demons of Chaos teams, and I have not really been pleased with mine, but I think the Demons of Nurgle team is probably even worse. They don't really have anybody to handle the ball. Their agility 4+ across the whole team. Big guys 6+.
Can't secure their ball yet.
Yeah, right. Right. Spoilers. That'll make a big difference for Nurgle. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what I's trying to do with this team. He might just be in it to have fun and
goof around, kill
be really
time.
stinky, right? Because everybody has disturbing presence of foul appearance.
Yeah. If your opponent just rolls it, they roll it, right? Like you can force your opponent to roll a lot of dice, and if they just refuse to roll ones anywhere in that string of dice, then sometimes you're gonna have a miserable game of Blood Bowl in there. So
yeah.
And the final game we're gonna recap, we've got the Drakenhof Grave Robbers, the 1-0 victory over Duskwig Go-Chomp, so Blake was able to pull out a win there. Against Warren's Squig team. And that Squig team is hilarious.
Yeah, I got to play against the Squig team. It is hilarious. And I love Warren's old classic metal models that he's using.
Yeah, because he had the, what was it, like the Warhammer 3rd edition goblins or something like that. I think it's whatever was in the 90s.
Yeah, and he's got the squigs, like the little metal squigs. So, they're awesome.
That's another one of those games where you're glad you're playing undead, and because that squig team can be pretty lethal.
Yeah, it's very deadly. It looks like the undead team did take some damage here. There's a movement down on a white.
I think that was the white I killed.
Okay.
I think he's got the good white and then the white that keeps getting replaced because it's just the cursed position. I think sometimes your roster just comes there. It's a hidden penalty. You don't know that you have it, but sometimes you just have a position on your roster that is cursed.
Yeah, that's true. We've seen that multiple times in the league.
So that is the lightning round wrap up of the games there. A quick in memoriam section. We had the Heyman Double Thumped, who was a Bloodseeker for the Blaviken Bloodhounds, die. I'm saluting a dead Bloodseeker from past Khorne experience myself. That always is painful. Minty Rock Smacker for the Black Orcs, or Black Orc for the Peeled Nuts died. I think he got stepped on by a dwarf, perhaps.
Yikes! Strength 4 players going down fast here.
Yeah. You had Dios, a human lineman, may have been in werewolf form. We don't know, can't confirm. But that was a Lupus Lapin.
Well, he would have reverted to human form anyway when he died.
Right, exactly. We can't. Posthumously, we can't tell. As far as we know, there's no werewolves in the area. Journeyman Nurgling died for Ide's team. And then the aptly named Grim Lowlife, a zombie for the Drakenhof Grave Robbers died.
Yeah.
I think the zombie name generator remains undefeated.
It always wins.
All right, so we are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to spend, approximately 4 hours talking about the new article.
Yes.
All right, we are back. And today, the Warhammer community put up an article titled Token Skills and Roster Changes. What's new in Blood Bowl? And I would say it was jam-packed full of morsels.
Pretty big news here. I would say there's a lot more meat in this article than in the last one. Do we want to just go down?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can kind of take it section by section. It's the stated goal, and I think this is I think there's like a little bit of tension between like their stated goal and what is actually coming, right? They want to keep Blood Bowl to have the same feeling as always had, and they wanted to like simplify some aspects of the game. Now they've simplified passing, but they've added a whole bunch of other tokens and other bits and bobs, and we'll kind of dive into that as we go.
Right.
But they did apparently they've been listening to feedback. And
I think that's clear. They've definitely heard what the community thinks, and they're trying to incorporate that into what they do. I may or may not agree with every decision they make, but I do like that they're thinking about it, they're making an effort, and they're changing things. I mean, I think any game stagnates when it's the same forever.
Yeah, for sure. Right. I mean, I think anecdotally, because we can kind of like give some of the listeners a peek behind the curtain of running the league. I think like this current edition, we were running into like questions about what we do with some megastars, like specifically Bomber, right? Because there were some things in this version that were just pretty egregious.
Right. What was the stat? Bomber was taken in like 1/3 of games last season.
Yeah. No, and actually it lowered because there were a couple people who swapped teams away from teams that could take Bomber, right? But like, so it could have even been taken more than he had been.
Yeah, I think in any situation where you can take Bomber and you have 50K, you do take Bomber. And that's unhealthy for the game.
Right.
There should be nothing that's just automatic.
Yeah. So, the first kind of like heading in the article was on clearer wording and terminology. And I should probably, we'll go back and we'll do a take of that where I just slur that, or I just like, just clear wording. Yeah, I think that's welcome. I think the FAQ was something that was getting a little creaky.
Yeah, it's not fun to have a rule book and just know that you can't really look at it. You have to go search through some third-party website with a million ads to find what you need.
Yeah.
So it's going to be nice to have the rule book back. But what they're doing here with keywords, I feel like it's something they started in the last edition but didn't really follow through with all the way.
Yeah.
And it should help a lot to clear things up. I'm a big fan of the distracted keyword.
For sure. That simplifies that board state by so much. Losing tackle zones, right? There were things that worked even though you had lost your tackle zone. There were things that didn't work when you had lost a tackle zone. There were skills you could use on the ground and skills you could not.
Right.
And so being able to say, like, clarifying what that state means, saying that bonehead and hypnogaze and like bloodlust, presumably all of those make you distracted. That.
Right, and then we can go just consult what the distracted keyword
Correct.
means.
Yeah.
Before it was, okay, you've lost your tackle zone. Now, I'm pretty sure in the rule book on this page it says a player without tackle zones can't use skills. This consolidates it all into one place. It makes it a lot easier for a new player to understand, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it kind of future-proofs some stuff. So, like, if they do add things to the game, they've got like a codified set of rules to comb back through and make sure that it fits in with the description of stuff that they have, right?
Right.
So, we've got the next big heading was the secure the ball action, and I don't even know how many hours of this podcast that Yannie and I spent talking about secure the ball, but it gave us some clarification there. It says a player can declare this action, make a move action to the ball, and attempt to pick it up on a 2+ regardless of their agility. Once they have picked it up, their activation immediately ends. There are some caveats. A player cannot declare this action if there's a standing opposition player who is not distracted within 2 squares of the ball. And additionally, a player that is a big guy, keyword, or one with the unsteady trait also cannot declare this action. Now, there's actually a ton to unpack there.
Right, yes. So the secure the ball action, you guys spent so much time talking about it because I think from the previous article, that was the biggest takeaway. That was the headline, right? Secure the ball was totally new, and it was going to change the way some of the teams played. Like an elf team would never bother, but the Tomb Kings team really needs it.
Yeah.
That Nurgle team we were just talking about, where everybody's 4+, if they could secure the ball, that would be
if you could secure the ball with a bloater, you would.
Absolutely. The fact that a big guy can't do it, I think we expected, but we didn't know about this unsteady trait. And also, big guy is in bold here. It's a keyword now. It's
right.
Not just we have a big guy on our team and that's what we call it. Now it's actually in the game. It's a keyword.
Yeah. When Grim Ironjaw, we talked about that a little bit, but Grim Ironjaw was the other star player that was spoiled, and he has a couple of traits that reference specifically big guys.
He hates big guys.
Yeah, in fact, he does.
I believe it says hatred big guys.
Yeah. And his once per game works only against big guys.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, that's good. We don't necessarily want ogres and croxagores to be able to just go secure the ball, right?
Yeah. And so we were speculating, can you secure the ball with the Saurus? This kind of explicitly says you cannot, because they clarified the unsteady trait. Now, they don't define what the unsteady trait is, but we could probably use a little bit of deductive reasoning. But they said that zombies and Sauruses have the unsteady trait.
Yeah, if you look at the article and you follow the 3 asterisks down to the bottom of the page, you see that they say that zombies and Saurus, presumably other players too, but that's the 2 examples they give.
Yeah. So I think it's reasonable to assume that unsteady is probably the Norse lineman drunkard.
Yeah, that's my theory.
The trade-off here is that they've made it a little bit more of a generic trait. Presumably zombies can't get drunk. Also, they probably didn't want to remind global players how much they drink.
Right.
So,
and drunkard is there for theme on the Norse team. But if you're going to expand it to all teams, like, it doesn't really fit with lizards or rotting corpses.
Right. So, it is likely a negative trait. So the reason why Norse linemen cost 50k is because they have a negative trait that punishes their go for it's. And I think like nerfing zombie go for it's is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, but it is here to balance something else that they get, which I suppose we'll come to in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I think if it is... So presumably, if you have the trait unsteady, it's not there just to reference this, right? It's gonna do something else.
Yeah.
It could be anything, but I think the drunkard is a very good candidate for this. And it fits, right? Zombies are slow and shambling, and maybe they shouldn't be making rushes. And Saurus are movement 6, which is a lot for a strength 4 player. And there's 6 of them on the team. So I think limiting their ability to rush makes some amount of sense.
Yeah.
If that is paired with a reduction in their cost, because remember their cost went up in the last edition, which really impacted the Lizardman team, I think this might end up being a pretty good balancing effect.
Right. And I guess we'll talk more about the roster stuff in a bit. But I think, like I said, it's a lot to unpack here because a lot of this stuff in this article is all kind of related to each other.
Right.
So the next subheading was the Blood Bowl tokens. Now, this one, this is not a clear win or loss for me. This is just kind of like more stuff to keep track of on the board, which, especially late in a season, things get kind of difficult to, like, keeping track of the board state can get kind of ugly because some characters have skills, and if characters don't level up on the same skill path, it gets harder to keep track of it. Now, I do like having stuff to mark on the board. I think that does help. People use like those bonehead rings and stuff like that on their models, and I think that certainly
Absolutely.
makes the board state look a little cleaner.
Yeah, so the ideal is a perfectly clear board state where you can at a glance tell everything that's happening. That's always the goal. It's good to see that they are incorporating the ball token. We've been using ball tokens for years now. Third party has been covering that, so Games Workshop has finally jumped into it. Great.
Yeah. And I like that you can now actually use a ball and there's a place to put it.
They give you the ball, and this ball token has a little hole where you could put the peg of the ball in and use the actual ball.
Presumably you could magnetize that like anything else. Because I do like the flavorful balls for like the bats on the vampire one,
sure.
Or the snotling that's inside the ball busting out of it. Like those are all great looking.
They are, yeah. Every team's got their own custom ball, and a lot of them are really cool. I used to really be strict about painting the balls for every team and meticulously, and I would magnetize. I have in the past drilled a hole in a ball and put a magnet in it and put a magnet in the player base so that it would stick on there. But once we switched to the tokens, for me there was no going back because it's just so much clearer at a glance.
Yeah. So the fact that you can have a nice thematic stand for your team to put the ball on. I think that's just the win.
Yeah, anything that makes the board state more clear, and anything that improves the aesthetics, right? Those are just pure good. Like there's no downside to that.
Yeah, the prone stuff on the other hand, that's one that.
Yeah, so I have some thoughts about this. There are 8 status tokens here, and they're like in a kind of an arc shape so that you can put them up against your player base. 4 of them are existing status, like you've got rooted, blitz, prone, and stunned. And I think those are great. I don't know how many times I have forgotten whether or not I blitzed in a turn, but it's definitely happened a lot.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have a blitz token to make that clear. I have my own custom rooted tokens, which I'll probably continue to use for trees. But the prone and stunned are very useful. Now, it says in the article that we no longer have to lay down our models. I think that's going to make things less clear.
I can agree with that, yeah.
So if I have a little token next to all of my prone players, I have to look across the board to see where each one, whether it has a token or not. If they're just laid down, to me, that's very clear.
It's very clear what the tackle zones are and are not when your models are laying down.
Because that's what Blood Bowl comes down to, right? Is the squares on the board, the assist math, the tackle zones. So anything that makes that easier to read at a glance, to me, will speed the game up. And anything that makes that harder to read will slow it down. Now, I do like having prone and stunned tokens for the players that just won't lay down.
So stunned for sure is useful because there are a lot of there's the push-up zombies. Those guys love rolling.
Right, yeah.
They because their arms are not the same length.
Right.
They're doing like a DJ set where they're like moving the turntables back and forth, and so like their arms don't quite line up, and so that means they're like if you put them down on the ground, they have a tendency to roll and dab on your opponent. And
right.
So
yeah, it seems like a lot of my teams will have this one player that when I lay it down, it will just roll, and not just roll a little bit, but roll across the board because it's how it's balanced.
And some of the elf sculpts, it's actually hard to tell what is considered face up and what isn't, because they're doing like the twisted like catch the ball.
Yeah, looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, and so those models, it was never really clear which way they were facing. So I'm not opposed to having some tokens just in the box set that help you keep track of where stuff is.
I think they're useful. I'm glad they exist. I think the stun tokens for sure. Even the prone, like if you've got, like I painted Maple not too long ago. Maple is super tall. There's no way you could lay him down. You know, I take him off the field and put a proxy there. But if you wanted to leave him on the field and you have the prone token, you can just put that there.
Yeah, and the Bloodspawn was kind of that way too. The Bloodspawn is the model is extremely top heavy and is not symmetrical in any kind of way. It's also one that I don't necessarily want to put on the pitch, and this was kind of like their point for having it, was because you've got like all these spikes and stuff, and if you're just constantly putting the model down on those, you're going to chip away paint and
yeah. Well, that's the beauty of the neoprene mats, right? So they're soft. If we were putting them down on hard cardboard every time, that would take a lot more of a toll. That Bloodspawn, I just want to, as an aside, I can't talk about your Bloodspawn without mentioning that base that keeps that thing from tipping over is my finest hobby achievement. Because that is the most top-heavy model I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it is crazy.
Yeah. It's a feat of engineering to get it to behave on the pitch. So.
Yeah, if you drilled into that base, you would see it was a lot of engineering to make it stand up. But back to these tokens, there are 4 now that are new, right? So you've got Eye Gouge, Chomped, Dodgy Snack, and Distracted. So Distracted is great. Like Distracted did exist already. It just wasn't called that.
It's codified now. It's your Hypno Gaze token. It's your Bonehead token. It's like a multi-purpose thing. There's actually probably not enough Distracted tokens in the core set.
Oh, there won't be enough of any of these.
Yeah.
We'll need multiple sets, I'm sure. But it's great that Distracted has a name and there's a token for it, right? So there's no confusion. Yeah. Now, Eye Gouge, Chomped, and Dodgy Snack, we don't know what those do yet.
Yeah.
But what I do know is it adds 3 new stati to the game that didn't exist before. that will probably be fun. Should definitely be interesting. I just hope it doesn't slow the game down too much.
Right. Yeah. This kind of goes back to the thing I kind of teed off the article with, where if the stated game is to simplify it, adding a bunch of conditions to the board state can drag the game down. Now, a question would be, how long are these status tokens there? In the case of something like Hypnogaze, if I Hypnogaze your guy and your turn ends before you activate the model to get rid of Hypnogaze, and Hypnogaze stays. Same thing with Bonehead. Your turn ends before you activate a Bonehead, then it stays there. Eye Gouge and Chomped, I mean, they've alluded to it. That we now know that zombies can eye gouge. And we know that Monstrous Mouth is responsible for Chomp, but we don't know what those mean.
Right.
We could rampantly speculate about it for hours. I don't know that really accomplishes anything.
No, but aside from the speculation, we're definitely adding a new thing that can apply to each player. Probably these will involve a dice roll. Yeah. Every additional dice roll you add slows the game down.
Right.
But to me, the biggest thing is just the decision tree, right? So you've got this player that's chomped and this other player with dodgy snack, and you've got another one that's distracted, and you activate these in a certain order. I don't like anything that slows down the decision-making process of the game, because Blood Bowl games already are kind of pushed to get under 2 hours and 15 minutes in a tournament, and league games can really drag out if your opponent's not watching their time.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this plays out. I'm not trying to be negative about it because we don't know anything yet.
And how many of these can you have at the same time, right? Can you both be eye gouged and chomped?
Maybe. And distracted.
Yeah. Who knows?
And stunned.
Right.
I mean, I guess we'll find out.
Right. Some of these might supersede each other, right? Like, I don't know. But
probably once you're prone or stunned, that overwrites all the others. But who knows?
Right. And that's kind of the way it worked right now, right? Like, it's like you could be rooted and prone, right? Because you
yes.
could, yeah. So. And they're shaped in such a way where you could have like up to 4 of these around your model, right?
Right.
So, now passing game. This is actually the part that they did simplify.
Right. For sure.
So they made the. I didn't hate the current version of the passing rules. However, virtually every time a pass was thrown in this building, I feel like I was consulted over how do we do this thing. And there were actually aspects of the passing game years after Blood Bowl 2020 came out that we were getting wrong.
Yeah.
Until they were clarified somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
So I do think that is a bad state for the game to be in.
Agreed.
Ultimately. So this is basically putting the clock back.
Yeah, they're putting the genie back in the bottle, right, for wildly inaccurate and deflection. Deflection didn't exist before 2020 either. Yeah. What are your thoughts on deflection? Did you like it?
From a thematic standpoint, it makes sense to me, because if you watch a decent amount of football, a deflected pass ends up being quite common.
Right.
Because like you'll have like a defensive lineman get his hand up and the ball will bounce off of it. The pass, karams off it to someplace else.
Right.
So that is like fairly common, and that's typically what happened.
Yeah.
Now, from a game standpoint, I think the problem with it was that the deflection was the hardest roll to make, and the catch was pretty easy.
Right.
And I think if you go back and you take a look, I think there's like, of the people who have like career interceptions in the league, I think I have like 2, which probably puts me in the top like 5 players for interceptions.
Right.
I think Chris is probably number 1 because he was playing Slan for so many seasons.
Yeah. I liked deflection just because it did add that little extra bit of flavor.
The thing that was getting deflected the most was bombs.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Hopefully bombs will be dealt with. There's nothing in this article about bombs, but I'm looking forward to the bombs suck now article.
Yeah, so the one thing that you could take away from the passing game is that it's accurate, inaccurate, or fumble.
Right.
So that means the thing about wildly inaccurate bombs is there were a lot of times where if you threw a wildly inaccurate bomb, there was like anywhere from like a 25 to 50% chance that the bomb was going someplace you wanted it to go anyway, and often had a chance to knock over someone just in general.
Yeah, it's kind of an indicator of how imbalanced bombs are, that they've taken over this passing game discussion that we're having right here.
Correct, yes.
I hope that bombs are addressed, but under the 2020 rules is absolutely correct to talk about bombs because the passing rules were mostly used for bombs.
Yes.
Nobody really passed a lot because there's a lot of risk involved and not a huge upside unless your team is just built for it.
Right, and a lot of teams were so bad at passing that you couldn't get like the vanity SPP at various points in the game. You were like not incentivized because your regular linemen were only 50-50 to make a quick pass, right. And then so you were less than 50% chance just on a 4-up pass to a 3-up catcher. No re-rolls for any part of that. And so that meant most of your completions came in garbage time.
Right.
Where you didn't have enough time to score, or maybe your opponent doesn't even get another turn in the game, and then you just try to get the SBP for that. So I do think over the span of a league, making passing easier, because from what they've stated, they've lowered, like they've...
It says that they've lowered the passing stat for many players, not just throwers. Many players have had their passing stat improved. So I hope they're not going back to how it was. Like, one thing I did like about 2020 is they made throwers more important, more special, right?
Correct.
Different from the rest of the
And they were
players.
actually, to the teams that wanted to throw, the throwers were essential.
Yeah, right. Because before the 2020 edition, if you were playing an elf team, every player could pass on a 2+, and I don't think that's how it should be.
Right. Should line elves have 2+ passing? No. Should they have 4+ passing? I don't know.
Or do you think it should be 3+?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say, right? Because 2+, 3+, 2+ to get an SPP, because a lot of the way that a lot of the changes look, like they might just be straight up nerfs to elves. And I think the biggest one is still right around the corner for us to talk about.
Right.
But like if every elf can score an SPP on a 2+, 3+, 2+, then I think you'll end up with some just like inflated SPP totals.
Yeah, to me the test there should be, would you do it? So if I've got a 2+ thrower with pass skill, I'll throw that pass just for a star player point. Just in a normal game situation, to me, the risk is worth it. But if it was a 3+ with no pass, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that unless the ball is absolutely secure, far away from opponent's players.
And you can't do it if you're going to secure the ball too. So
that's right. Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting kind of thing.
Right.
So there were a lot of times where, like in the old version, you had 2 people in the backfield. You move your one guy up to put a tackle zone on the ball. And then the other guy is just like, I'll go for the pass because we're back here anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And if I fumble, it's in maybe 2 tackle zones. It's just back here. Nobody's back here, right? So I'll just walk up, pick up the ball, throw it to the other guy. And if I can do like a string of 3+, I'll get an SPP, and that's worth it because also in the old version, MVPs gave 5 SPP. And so the 1 completion plus the 5 SPP meant you could get a skill on whoever it was, right?
Right.
And not quite the case now. No,
but those star player points add up, and you definitely want any one you can get is very valuable.
Yeah, right. If you're scoring like an average of 15 SPP a game, like the fact that you score 1 SPP is actually like a significant chunk.
Oh, it matters. And I played Wood Elves last season, and suddenly I had a thrower with 2+ passing and pass, and I was like, oh, wow, look, I found a glitch in the game. I can do an infinite SPP hack. And that thrower was great because of that. You can get skills so easily.
Yeah.
But I don't think that should be available to every player.
Right. So that was like the gutter runner problem. Was
right.
Like there was no reason to take a thrower because the gutter runners were 2+, 2+.
Right.
And so, yeah, I do think a lot of the 2+ agility characters shouldn't necessarily be able to throw on a 3. I think honestly the Elven Union Blitzer, it was a feature that he could throw on a 3.
Right.
He's your backup thrower, and it was already like the best player on the team, giving him like a little bit of extra stat boost in a couple places. That's just kind of nice.
Yeah, so it's all good. And before we move on from this passing section, I feel like we buried the lead here, and I just want to say, Wildly Inaccurate is gone, and good riddance. I don't think anybody is going to defend Wildly Inaccurate.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I thought it was my regret on Wildly Inaccurate leaving is throw teammate Wildly Inaccurates, because those were just very funny.
Yeah.
I won a game because I had somebody Wildly Inaccurate their goblin into the crowd.
Yeah, and that is funny. But for me, Wildly Inaccurate was so anti-thematic, right? Like, there is a chance that when I try to throw the ball, I'm going to throw it 6 squares directly behind me. Like, that would never happen in football.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, and also it adds another thing. It really doesn't, fumble does what you need it to do, right?
Yeah.
If your modified one is a fumble, that's fine. That does what you need it to do as far as the game. There's no reason to add this anti-thematic thing. I kind of feel bad about the loss of deflection. Like, it simplifies it to get rid of it, so great. Like, it makes sense. We're losing a little bit there, but Wildly Inaccurate, see ya. Bye, Felicia.
All right, the next section is new skills and traits. Once again, quite a bit to unpack from this one. They mentioned that there's going to be a bunch of new ones. They mentioned a few other skills by name. They mentioned punt.
Yeah.
They mentioned taunt. They mentioned bullseye.
Do we want to pause here and just say what these are?
Yeah.
So punt allows players to kick the ball forward without causing a turnover, which we were throwing the ball down the field in some situations.
And calling it a punt.
Right.
And this kind of like... Now,
some players will have the punt skill. It'll be interesting to see what that actually does.
It's a strategic addition to the game. So I do think it makes you have to play more carefully. I remember distinctly playing against Jim one season, and I had him on the ropes with his Wood Elf team, and I was trying to find the last touchdown, but I was having to kick to him, and he had just a few Wood Elves on the table. I had beaten his team senseless during the course of the game. And I remember having to put 2 players deep, because if he just took his thrower and just threw the ball into my backfield, I would have no way to go get it, right? And the fact that the punt skill now exists means that you might have to devote resources away from the scrum that you wouldn't have had to prior.
So you'll know if your opponent has punt on a player or not. And if they do, then you probably need to plan for it, right?
Yeah.
And I suspect this will be one of those skills that's pretty good if you have it. Gives you something, an added dimension to your game that you wouldn't have, but it might not be good enough to actually choose.
Yeah.
We'll see.
If you random into it. So yeah, I don't think anybody would have like a punt first offense.
Right.
Necessarily. I would have to really, I mean, like, I could see it being really good against dwarves.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you punt the ball and you just want to see if you get the ball like 3 spaces away from their end zone. They may not have anybody that could even go get there. And then once you do that, that's when you commit your guys behind. If you flub the kick or whatever,
right,
then you play safe.
Yeah, if it sets up a foot race situation against a really slow team, that might be advantageous. We'll see what it actually does. Taunt allows the player to force an opponent to follow up when they are blocked.
So that is different. That's reverse finned.
Right. Exactly.
Who knows? And so hear me out. If Snotlings have taunt instead of sidestep,
that'd be all right.
Yeah, I think that might be worth 15K at that point.
I was thinking taunt on like a rot spawn or something.
Oh yeah.
Or a tree.
Right. Yeah, I think it's this is not a skill that I would take normally.
Right. Well, Fend isn't either, right? This is inverse Fend, and nobody really chooses Fend. If you have Fend already, great. If you hit it on a random, great. But you're not going to pick Fend.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one. It certainly complicates. I mean, I could see taunt and sidestep being extremely powerful together against like frenzy teams or something like that. But yeah, I don't think it's like one. This is not like nobody was rushing to our Discord to comment on taunt.
No.
I'll say that.
Bullseye is interesting. Bullseye allows a big guy to not have to scatter a thrown player so long as they make a superb throw.
If like when I saw that, I was thinking Deep Root and Morg, and like if they or Ripper, any of those throw teammate star players, if any of those guys have that skill.
Presumably they won't. To me, that seems probably a little too powerful. I think Bullseye, and they're probably not going to overwrite an existing star player with new skills. I mean, they have, but it's rare. But if you make this player, right, so you take like a tree or an ogre or something and you give it Bullseye, and I guess Strong Arm, you can get to a point where you have a player who on a 4+ doesn't scatter their teammate, right? And that's really good.
That's really powerful for one turn. Like this is one of those like you almost have to have a game plan for it for league play, because like if you have a stunty team, I honestly I think this probably makes up for some of the like direct or indirect nerfs to stunty teams that are probably coming. Like just reading the tea leaves, right?
Yeah.
Like all the bombers are suddenly worse. If passing is suddenly worse, but throw teammate is like slightly more reliable.
I think the stated goal is to make passing slightly better, right?
Yeah, so throw teammate gets a little bit more
boost from that, and then they add Bullseye. So if something happens and halflings can't take Griff, right? Like if they can't take Griff, but their throw teammate is much more reliable, then okay.
Yeah. Well, they were the Cadillac. They were the Cadillac team for throw teammate in editions past.
And it makes sense to me to try to steer the teams back towards their unique flavor.
Right.
Rather than make them all generic star caddies or whatever. All generic bomb caddies.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
They mentioned direct improvements to Monstrous Mouth.
But they still don't say what Chomp does.
You're right. And they do say that Armbard awards SPP for casualties it causes.
All right, let's all take Armbar
now. And then finally, Shadowing is buffed to triggering on a straight 4 or better.
So that one's news. Shadowing was always the worst skill you could get.
It was the worst skill.
Yeah,
it was
the
worst skill of the game.
But Shadowing on a 4+, that's a 50-50 shot to make me have to dodge again.
Yeah, I mean, on the ball, Shadowing is suddenly like an actual thing again, right? Like the chameleon skinks. Mm-hmm. That can be really annoying to play around. But I think that like annoying to play around in a good way.
Yeah, it's a buff to chameleon skinks. It's a buff to hobgoblin sneaky stabbers. It's a buff to dark elf assassins, which they need.
They do actually. Yeah.
Spoilers. And then a whole new category of skills.
Yeah, devious skills. And actually, there's quite a few changes that, like, if we're looking back at the rosters that came out over the last year or so, the devious skills kind of like fit into a niche that wasn't there before. The fact that they're putting like Sneaky Get and Dirty Player under this umbrella.
Now, did they say that outright?
Yeah.
Dirty Players, Pile Driver, Shadowing, Sneaky Get, and more.
Yeah, there are a number of new skills in this category, and a number of others have moved here as well. And it specifically mentions Dirty Player and Sneaky Get. So any player that can get Sneaky Get as a primary can now also get Dirty Player as a primary. And to me, that is massive.
Yeah.
That is like a direct buff to a lot of the probably stunty teams, because like they mentioned goblins specifically. get to start with it. I would think the Sneaky Stabas would get it. It's possible the Dark Elf Assassins get Devious.
Yeah, but other than that possibility, this is a nerf to elf teams, because elf teams are one of the ones that could easily get a sneaky get dirty player, and that won't be the case anymore. They're not devious.
Right. Maybe gutter runners. Maybe we'll have to see how it all shakes out. But yeah, I mean, I was actually really happy with the addition of passing skills.
Yeah.
And like fleshing out what those actually look like.
I think anything that fleshes out player development more is good for the game. Like, that's why a lot of us play it, is because we like to develop our players. So adding another skill category, a whole new skill tree, like, great, bring it on.
Yep. Excited to see how that pans out.
Yeah, it's also a buff to random skills, because you will now be able to, like, if you random a general, you're not going to hit dirty player, right? Like, if you want dirty player, you know which category of skills to go to. If you're just looking for wrestle or tackle or whatever, then that removes a miss from your table.
Yeah. Team roster changes is the final section, and this is the one that they say has the biggest impact in this edition, and
they're right.
And they're absolutely right. Just from looking at it, prima facie, this is a huge change.
Yeah, I would say this is bigger than any change in 2016 or 2020.
Right.
This is
2020 was like a slight evolutionary bump, right? Like it was like your appendix is no longer needed for digestion,
right? Type
of change, right? Like,
but this one we have a gizzard.
Yeah, yeah. This one is you have an extra set of arms,
right?
So yeah. I'll just read this part because I think this is the thing that matters the most. The first thing to note is the number of positionals on a roster will now match what is in the team box, meaning you should never have to buy a second box just to get more blitzers, runners, etc.
Only to get more linemen.
Yes, yeah. So I do. There were a lot of times when I'm like selling this game in the store where I'm like, oh, you want to play this team? Yeah, you got to buy this box, and then also you need these 5 models.
So it makes sense from that standpoint, right? Like, what's in the box matches what the team can take. Most teams will need more linemen. I mean, that's just going to be a thing. It already was a thing with some teams. I mean, you ran into that with, Amazons?
I ran into it multiple times.
Norse also, I guess.
I wish I had more Norse linemen. I don't. But I ran
Retainers?
I ran into it with nobility. I ran into it with undead, because there are times where you're going to have like a roster of
undead. To me was easier because if you like undead enough, you get the shambling box, you get the necromantic box, and then you got double zombies.
Yeah. But I definitely ran into it with Amazons. I ran into it with Khorne, and that's funny now. I understand why the Khorne booster pack went away.
Yeah.
But because it's basically squatted
those
now.
Those booster packs were so expensive, but they were cool.
Yeah. Presumably Khorne now can only have 2 Khorne Gores. That's what they stated, right? So
that's what it says.
So now I've got some extra Khorne Gores that don't do anything, but I do prefer the booster pack sculpts, because those you get the one is like got his shoulder down and charging, and like there's just much cooler poses.
Yeah, and those don't exist anymore, right? There are alternate sculpts for gutter runners, orc blitzers, like those are just gone. It's kind of sad, but it makes sense to match the box. Now, whether game design in 2025 should be dictated by manufacturing decisions from 10 years ago.
Yeah. And of course they mentioned specific exceptions. So they called out by name Goblin Secret Weapons, Dark Elf Assassins, Bull Centaurs, and most big guys, and specifically the Ogre team.
So if it's something that they sell through Forge World, it is an exception.
Right. Yeah. I'm using the new Helmsmiths of Hashut box for Bull Centaurs.
Yeah, and those are sick.
That's my current plan.
Yeah.
And I think that box is probably going to cost about the same amount that the Forge World Bull Centaurs would. Plus, you get an extra Bull Centaur.
Oh yeah.
So
Hathark.
Yeah. but yeah, and so the like tag along to the number of positions going down is that some players are getting better to compensate for that.
Yeah.
And that is crazy because the first one that they start with is saying that the Skaven team can only have 2 gun runners, but Skaven blitzers go to 8 speed and get strip ball.
Yeah, this is nuts. I mean, Skaven teams have been defined by the 4 gutter runners for the history of the game, right?
Right.
Going down to 2 is big news, but then that news is just obliterated by this thing about the blitzers.
Yeah.
Blitzers are going to be movement 8 and start with strip ball in addition to block. That's crazy. That's one of the best players in the game. The only movement 8 strength 3 players now are werewolves and elves, right?
Yeah. Various elf catchers and or
war dancers.
War dancers, yeah.
Right. So this already slots into a very rare niche in the game. But on this team, with starting with strip ball, that's really good.
Yeah, right. It's a crazy piece. You were already making like strip ball gutter runners to cage dives, and blitzers are worse at that.
Yeah,
because they don't have the agility. However, the movement 8 means that they can get to board positions that like previously you just had to like dream of, right?
Yeah, I think this will end up being a net buff to the Skaven team.
It could very well be. I mean, we'd have to see what the rest of the team looks like. It's hard to, because we can assume that they're touching multiple parts of rosters, right? So it's going to be hard to know what that, how that all shakes out, and like attached to that, if you're gaining stuff, the value of the player goes up.
Yeah, presumably the blitzers will cost quite a bit more now.
Right. I mean, they got to be north of 100.
Yeah,
or more.
Definitely.
And they'll be worth every penny.
Yeah, I would compare these to werewolves, right? Werewolves are 125, and they come with 3 skills. These come with 2 skills.
I could see a cost reduction to werewolves, honestly, because I think for like tournament play, if you're just slapping 1 skill on a werewolf, unless werewolves gain something to justify the price tag.
Starting with block and not starting with block is a big difference.
Huge difference, yeah.
So a player that starts with block is just better.
They tax star players for block.
Right, absolutely.
So, a lot of players on rosters aren't really taxed what they should be for having block, right?
Right, yeah.
And this is a direct attack on you, was the Dark Elf Blitzers being changed, right?
Yeah, I did enjoy my 4 Dark Elf Blitzers, but now it's only 2. The saddest thing for me in some of these changes is the time I spent painting these miniatures, right? So I've got 2 Blitzers I just put out to pasture.
Yeah, yep. The runners gained punt, so they have dump off and punt.
Yeah, they're good at getting rid of the ball.
And if their passing goes to a 2+, then they're a way more attractive piece.
If their passing goes to 2+, that would be amazing. We'll see. The other part of this is assassins gain hit and run.
Yeah, so it's no longer shackled just to the piranhas on Amazons, which I think is fine, actually. Like, I think hit and run was such like a strong tactical skill that actually lament that you couldn't take it on other players.
Yeah, hit and run is fun.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you make it available to more players, that's more fun. So great.
Right.
But an assassin, now we already mentioned shadowing, getting a buff to be just a 4+. And they have hit and run, which it says here now works with stab. I think this makes assassins viable pieces, finally, for the first time, really.
And I think I don't think they're like a joke piece.
No, definitely not. Not anymore. I think you replace the 2 blitzers with the 2 assassins in your plans for building your Dark Elf team.
Right. The assassins are actually better at taking down blodgers. On paper, they're better at taking down blodgers.
And if they fail, now they will shadow the blodger on a 4+.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And you can get them out of trouble. Yeah,
right, exactly. You always had to stab, and then if you fail, you're standing next to the guy, right?
Yeah.
And you're an armor 8+ elf that doesn't start with block or dodge, so you just get pasted. Now you can hit or run away. If that only works on a blitz, right?
No, hit and run works on blocks.
It works on blocks.
Yeah.
So if you're an assassin standing next to somebody, you stab them and then you step away.
Yes. Yeah. Hit and
That's
run
pretty good.
Hit and run is extremely powerful. The thing is, it combos really well with blitz because you get an extra move. There were a lot of times where I would throw a blitz with a Piranha Warrior in the league. I would throw a blitz. I would follow in, like if I knocked the piece over, I would follow in, and normally I wouldn't necessarily because I don't want to make the dodge away. But you could follow in if the ball scattered to you and you caught it, then you could hit and run out of the scrum and go run the other way. There was a game I played against John Jennings where he was playing Lizardmen, and that happened like 2 or 3 times during the game. And it was just like perfect bounce to the blitzer. Blitzer catches it, hit and runs away. It's just gone the other way. And then you got a screen of Amazons in the way. And so that's where like hit and run on a blitz is really powerful. But there are times where you're just like you're using that player to screen. They have some other target they need to blitz, and then they move to base you, and you can just like knock people out of the way and then kind of reposition. So. Yeah. I like, just from what I saw, I like the fact that they've got more skills that make positioning matter and change positioning from what's going on the board. That's cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, Blood Bowl is a game of positioning, right? We're playing a strategic game of squares on a board. I mean, that's the aspect of Blood Bowl that is like chess, right? Like it's of course much more random, but the strategy of picking the perfect square and having all of my pieces where they need to be, like that's why I enjoy playing Blood Bowl, and to make that more important and give us more options, that'll be fun. Again, I hope it doesn't slow the game down because I don't want it to get slower.
Yeah, right. I think the balance here is like where. Because there are a lot of times, if I'm looking at a board and there's like a thing that's just like a headache to deal with, a lot of times I'll just opt out of it. Right. I'll be like, you know what? It's actually better if I just screen here as opposed to like diving in on the scrum or whatever, right?
Right.
Like it's easier to try to make like this 4-up, 3-up dodge than it is to try to commit more pieces to something that's already going sideways. I wonder if adding all of those elements creates that board situation more, where it's like, you know what, it's better to just move my guys, not even base anybody, than it is to actually try to go through with the scrum.
This is the kind of thing that we'll have to play some games and sit with it and see how it feels. So tune in next year, everybody.
The final roster change. The Shambling Undead can now only take 2 ghouls, definitely a nerf, but these gained regenerations, and their zombies gained eye gouge.
Yeah, so my experience when I played a season of Necromantic, and I just could not keep a ghoul alive.
One of those cursed positions.
Yeah, well, both. I mean, I would buy a ghoul and it would die that game or get a stat down or whatever. So I just learned to play without ghouls. Shambling can take 4, or they used to be able to take 4, so that's a little different. And I haven't played a whole lot with Shambling, but to me, like if you take it from 4 down to 2, well, the last 2 ghouls were probably the last 2 positionals you buy. You buy the mummies, you buy the whites, you buy 2 of the ghouls. So it's not that big of a change, but giving them regenerate makes them from like the one glaring vulnerable piece on the team to being just as resilient as everybody else.
Yeah, I would say for league play, you would often see that 2 of each positional, but in like tournament play, every time I played against Shambling in tournaments, it was always 4 ghouls.
Yeah, right. Well, this is a league podcast. I'm not talking about league, but yeah, for tournament lists.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is that the ghouls were all toolkit pieces.
Right.
You had the wrestle ghoul, you had the block ghoul, you had the sneaky get ghoul, you know.
Well, this is definitely a nerf for Shambling in tournaments.
Well, and the ghouls presumably get more expensive.
but it may be a buff for League because you can develop these ghouls and have a hope of them actually living.
Right. They don't just instantly explode the first time they
Right.
make contact with an enemy.
But in tournaments, I guess you're going to be relying on your zombies to gouge out all the eyes.
Yeah, I think so we were discussing prior to the podcast like the change to shambling here, right? Because giving the zombies eye gouge would make them cost more, but if you make the zombies unsteady, then suddenly those two offset each other.
Right, maybe they're still 40.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah. And honestly, the zombies having something to do that isn't just move into base with someone is
Or stand
huge.
up.
Yeah.
Right.
Stand up and be finished activating.
Right, in the rare situation where they're standing, but they're based with a bigger guy and they just don't do anything, now they can gouge out their eyes.
Right. So, yeah, and we'll have to see what that does. I've got like some inclinations, but those just kind of presumably those just make the game more complicated.
Yeah.
Like keeping track of the board state more complicated.
So it's got to be something that matters enough that we would want to put the token out there and keep track of it, but we don't want it to matter so much that this skill is oppressive.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Right. Eye gouge. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
Right.
Like,
yeah. We could guess, but we're just basically throwing darts. I mean,
right.
Who knows?
Right. We're just taking shots. And who knows where that those land. Yeah. So
this is the only roster changes they mentioned, but I think it's worth.
Those three alone are huge.
Yeah, but from what we know, if the players on the team match the sprues, what does an orc team look like?
Yeah, and the same thing with a human team. The thing was that they never did an official orc and human team for 2020, right? They have the only boxes that were available for them were like direct order through the website, and they did not have like official the official packaging that the other teams did. Part of me can't help but wonder if they're trying to slowly phase those teams out, right?
I mean, I think those teams are core to the game.
They are iconic for sure because that classic Blood Bowl second edition that basically like put the game on the map, made it the game that we're still playing 30 years later. That box set came with orcs and humans.
Yeah.
And so I would certainly feel I would feel like we had lost something if those teams weren't in the game. But at the same time, they were just kind of like slightly mirrored versions of each other, right? Like the orcs were bashier and the humans were slightly more agile.
Right. Well, I mean, humans are supposed to be the baseline, right? And every other team is a variation in some way from that, right? You've got elves are agile humans and orcs are heavily armored humans and whatever. I don't think these teams are going anywhere. I think based on this article, we know that we will only get 2 human blitzers now, only 2 human catchers.
Right.
But that also means only 2 orc blitzers and only 2 big uns.
Yeah, which is a crazy way to affect the team.
To me, that's probably the biggest change of all is the orc team because we've always thought of them as a strength team, right? Like they're defined by the fact that they're stronger than humans. But if they only have the 2 big uns and the troll, I mean, they're no stronger than Amazons or Norse.
Yeah, right. And I could fill like multiple podcast episodes complaining about orcs, like the current design of orcs.
Yeah.
But because they're basically fast dwarves as far as I'm concerned. Because like it's like impossible to get damage on the team.
Sure.
But and I felt like animosity was like not enough of a trade-off to give the big guys like an extra movement, right? Like I don't know. To me, orcs have to be in the game, and they have to have 4 strength 4 pieces. I don't see how you get away from that. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they address it. There's got to be something. Right. Yeah. I mean, my biggest complaint about the big guns is actually the cost. They are so
right. There's
cheap.
no reason that they
they're so cheap compared to like the Chaos teams.
Yeah, and they got the point of movement in the last edition. I didn't understand that.
You put a Bloodseeker side by side with the Black Orc, and I think the Bloodseeker is paying like $15K. Yeah. Maybe it might even be $25K.
Well, we were talking earlier, and I said the most important stat in any stat line is the gold cost, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, you can have strength 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, agility 2+, but if you're not costed appropriately, it's not worth taking.
Right.
The cost really defines which teams are good and which teams are not. The change to Lizardmen really shows that.
Right, exactly, yeah. The Lizardmen went from being something that was pretty ubiquitous to kind of an afterthought, right? Like you needed a specific rule set to make the team good, and that's a product of the composition of the team, right? I think any team that has 5 or 6 different rostered spots will always have more ways to build for rule sets, and the Lizardman team is just like Saurus, Skink, Kroxigor, right? They got Black Orcs in this picture here. Maybe they changed Black Orcs around. I don't think that's necessarily bad, right? Like something I talked about was like breaking some of the 0 through 6 positionals off and putting them into a 0 through 2, kind of the way they did with vampires.
Yeah, but see, they're just basing it on the sprues, right? So it's going to be what the sprues are. And Black Orcs, they have 6 Black Orcs, right? They're 3 on a sprue, so that presumably that'll be the same. I think these teams are just going to be the sprues until they get a new version.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see a new human and basic orc team in the near future. Maybe the rules is released we'll just have based on the current sprues, and then they'll come out with a new version. Those models are 10 years old.
Yeah, and they announced in the last one that High Elves are the next thing right around the corner, because they were like the final team of Legend that didn't exist. I had wondered if they were going to make like a Tomb King's High Elf box. It turns out that wasn't that far off. It was Tomb Kings and Bretonians, like a brand new one.
Right. Great. Bring on the new teams.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I like, if anything, the Secret League has taught me is that, like, if you have 45 Blood Bowl teams, and you have 45 people playing in a league, you will have 45 Blood Bowl teams in the league. Yeah. Right, like unique teams, because a lot of people, it was just kind of like a gentleman's agreement. Nobody was going to double up on the teams. Nobody we never codified that. We were just like, here are the teams.
Right.
And yeah, I think some of the teams are in the Secret League are like, they're like probably a little too good in some places, but honestly, I think a lot of the Secret League teams are balanced.
It hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's been flavorful.
I think it shows that there's room in this design space, right, to have different kinds of teams that do different things, and still the game is robust enough to survive that.
Yeah, the rule set is really just at its core. It is fun to move people around the pitch and roll some dice.
Yeah,
and that's what keeps you coming back. And it doesn't matter how many times you play a specific matchup. It always is. It's like it's going to shake out different ways.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the next version. I mean,
me too. Even if not all the changes are improvements, the fact that they are changes, is welcome.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it a completely different feeling.
Right.
I was. Like I said at the beginning, this was like a feast for people who were like waiting for updates, because we spend a chunk of our day talking about Blood Bowl theory crafting stuff, and this was just kerosene on that.
Absolutely, yeah, right. It was a huge bombshell this morning.
Yeah,
it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I think that brings us wrapped right back around to the end. And one last reminder for We Warriors coming up.
We Warriors this Saturday,
October 25th.
Yep.
Get your mayhem in.
Yep. Come on down. Bring your stunty team. Bite some ankles. It's gonna be fun.
I think we're out of here. We're wrapping it up. we got what? There's some sort of thing about socials. Yannie always does this part.
So follow us on the socials. And go listen to our comics podcast. I want to shout out the last episode where Yannie was a guest and they talked about banned books and censorship. It was a great episode, really interesting discussion. Scott and Alan do a great job with this podcast every week. This episode with Yannie really brought another element, and I'm looking forward to see where Scott and Alan go in the future. So, yeah.
Right. We've got a host of social media stuff out there for you to partake, and we'll see you out there.
All right. Yep.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.